Look, honestly, I always say that the truth can't be close to emotions. I mean, an emotional person is further away from the truth. Because when you try to seek the truth, the first thing you have to do is die to yourself, die to your emotions, die to your ego, die to your beliefs. You have to be able to say, I was wrong. In the realm of relationships, being an emotional man doesn't do you any favors. And in relationships, both between men and women, in romantic relationships, as well as in friendships, that is, I don't like having emotional friends. Because they're the ones who can betray you at any moment. Look, women are emotional, right? Generally speaking, we can't talk in specific terms. We're talking about the general case. Women are emotional, so today they feel one thing, today they love you, they're super in love, and the next day something happens and they change.
Modern women demand traditional treatment, but they practically don't fulfill any traditional requirements. And that's where the asymmetry lies. I want all the privileges of the old ways, but I don't want any of the responsibilities that came with those privileges. So it's like, well, feminism in general is based on privilege, 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 cherry picking everything men have done. Now, when it comes to responsibilities, none.
Nowadays, in the society we live in, where men have no values, where women do whatever they want, and we live in absolute chaos, you have to stay red pilled until you find that woman, because if not, they're going to trick you, and in the end, you're going to end up screwed. I mean, people prefer to be told what they're seeing instead of seeing it with their own eyes and saying, I'm seeing this.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Factory. Today, I'm pleased to welcome a colleague, a conspiracy theorist, a legendary bear, a wild boar with tough hair, a man who stands for men being men. In short, he always goes against the current, so I always want him on my team. Today, we're pleased to have Azarian with us. How are you, my friend?
Very well, man. Thank you very much for the invitation. I was really looking forward to having this little chat here with you.
It's been a year since we discussed coming, but we've kept postponing it.
God's timing is perfect, man.
God's timing is perfect.
Or when he has to hurt himself.
Let's see, who is God to you? Who?
Well, you're catching me at a difficult time. About who God is, I'm sure that God is a universal creative force that is above all of us. But as for putting a face or a personality to it or something like that, I couldn't tell you.
Alright, I like the answer. This show is going to be flow freestyle all the way. We haven't prepared anything, we just ate, and Mikael is there watching, and we've talked about history and so on, so I want to know. Who are you on social media?
Okay. Well, I always say that I don't like to label myself. I don't like to put labels on myself. I'm a guy who, ever since I was very young, when I was given toys, Galextric sets, and so on, I would always take them apart. I wasn't interested in playing. I just wanted to know how it worked. So, as I grew up, obviously toys didn't interest me anymore. But I tried to break down the system. I tried to find out what the truth is about the world I live in. So, my purpose in life is to try to seek the truth. And that's what has shaped my image and my persona on social media. I mean, the truth in every possible aspect. It's my purpose. It's what keeps me up at night. It's my thirst.
And there is only one truth.
There is only one truth, though everyone creates their own reality. The truth remains singular. The thing is to find that truth which is well hidden.
In this path and this search for truth, where has it led you?
Well, it has taken me in all kinds of directions you can imagine. I mean, it has taken me through. Look, honestly, I always say that the truth can't go near emotions. That is, when a person is emotional, they are further from the truth. Because when you try to seek the truth, the first thing you have to do is die to yourself, die to your emotions, die to your ego, die to your beliefs. You have to be able to say, I was wrong, which is something very difficult in the world we live in for a person to say, I have been wrong all this time. So, honestly, I think the truth is a bit about being able to not get attached to anything, not having emotional attachments. And so, to look for the truth there. At the same time, this whole search for truth has been my main purpose ever since I was very young. I think it also gives you a lot of personal growth because in the end, it makes you a less emotional person. I mean, I don't need to get attached to anything. I don't need to be a fanatic about anything. I mean, I just try to look for logic, for rationality all the time. And in the end, that gives me personal growth.
I understand. So, you make a direct correlation between a person who seeks the truth and that this same person will also develop personally and grow as an individual.
For example, in the area of relationships, being an emotional man doesn't do you any favors. And in relationships, whether in relationships between a man and a woman, in romantic relationships, or in friendships. I mean, I don't like having emotional friends because they're the ones who can betray you at any moment.
Totally.
You agree, right?
I agree.
Yes. So that's it. I think that as a man, one of the virtues we men have is being rational. Because one of the things women value most in a man is keeping his word. You can only keep your word by being rational. If you're emotional, you can't.
It's a great phrase and a great thought that I'd like you to elaborate on a bit more. How do you explain and confirm that a lack of rationality or an excess of emotionality is always linked to not keeping your word?
Because look, women are emotional, right? Generally, we can't discuss specifics. We're referring to the broader case. Women are emotional. So today they feel one way, today they love you, today they're super in love. The next day something happens and they change. I mean, women are emotional. We are the ones who have to keep our word. We are the ones who have to be, rationality is with us. It goes hand in hand with developing it, not getting caught up in emotions. You have to set your emotions aside in order to keep your word and say, okay, I'm going to keep my word no matter what it costs me, regardless of whether my emotions, my feelings, or what I want are the opposite. And that's what women value. That's why I see marriage as what a woman is looking for is your word as a man. The promise that I will be faithful and I will be with you for the rest of my life, and I give you my word before God. They look for that. We seek something else in them, purity, the fact that you haven't given yourself to anyone. That's what marriage is, the exchange of values in a marriage. You give me the most valuable thing you have, or what I consider the most valuable, which is giving me children. Ultimately, that's what every man looks for. No matter how much they tell you it's not moral or whatever, that's what every man ultimately seeks offspring. It's the number one purpose of human beings. And they look for a man who will provide for them, protect them, and give them security throughout their whole life. So you build that with your word, right? If your word means nothing, it makes no sense.
And that's why women give so much power and value to a man's word. Because it's that word that is able to keep a man tied to them so that he fulfills his role within the relationship.
Exactly. His will, his values, his honor, it's everything. In the end, keeping your word is a combination of many things. And nowadays, I see people getting married all the time, and it's like, why are you getting married? They get married for the celebration. They get married because they're going to be with their friends, because they're going to get drunk, because they're going to have a good time, for 1,000 reasons.
Because of pressure from the woman.
Due to pressure from the woman. There are countless reasons, but none convince me except for having offspring. Offspring.
For me too, that's the only thing that convinces me to get married. I was gonna say, in the realm of men, women, relationships, there are a lot of truths, and I think my Red Pill podcast was one of the first to bring those somewhat uncomfortable truths to the Spanish speaking world. But let's talk a bit about Red Pill. Okay, the analogy. It's an analogy to the movie The Matrix, which means.
I haven't seen The Matrix, man.
How have you not seen The Matrix?
No. They always tell me that. You have to watch The Matrix.
You have to watch it, you have to see it because, above all, for someone who is searching for the truth, it's a movie that perfectly reflects the war we find ourselves in for those of us who dare to think outside the box we've been given. By those who control the system, which in this case would be the Matrix. So when you see the struggle of the main characters in the movie and the things these characters say about the rest of the people, they're not really enemies, but defenders of the very system that oppresses them. You realize several things, and it serves quite well as an allegory or even as an analogy to modern reality. I recommend this movie to you. Anyway, The Red Pill. It's a direct analogy to the red pill that wakes you up to reality, and once you take that pill, you'll never see the world the same way again. I want to talk a bit about the red pill view of relationships between men and women. Why is it necessary and at the same time, in a certain sense, harmful? When someone takes everything literally, it can become that way. My podcast is called Red Pill, and my name is jred.redpill because I can't separate myself from it now. What I've done is give Red Pill a different meaning. It's not just the philosophy of seeking intrinsic truth in the dynamics between men and women, but it's also every uncomfortable truth that the system doesn't want you to know.
Exactly. When we talk about red pill, in the end, I see red pill relationships or something like that. Look, I created my personal brand initially through Christian values, biblical values, okay? When I started getting into these red pill topics, being a bit more aggressive with women on certain issues to say, hey, this can't be like this isn't the right way. Or we touch on those more red pill points, more about waking men up, like have values, have standards, don't just settle for any woman, I don't know, have some standards, which is something that's really frowned upon in society these days, right? A lot of people tell me that it clashes with Christian values, that they say, no, but that's not what Jesus said. Those aren't Christian values. Red pill is completely on the opposite side of Christian values. I don't know if anyone has ever told you that too, but well, it's something people tell me a lot, right? You have to have Christian values. You have to act with like a conservative, like a gentleman. You have to act like a gentleman, but with the right woman. I mean, that used to be a given, but that's because there wasn't this hypersexualization. This hypersexualization that we live in today, I mean, in the past, by the age of 19, people already had a partner. They basically already had a wife and they already had children. And that's how it was. I mean, you would stay with that woman for the rest of your life. So it made sense. Nowadays, in the society we live in, where men have no values, where women do whatever they want, and we live in absolute chaos, you have to be red pill until you find that woman, because if not, you'll be fooled. And in the end, you're going to end up screwed. And in the end, you're going to end up screwed. I mean, you could lose many years of your life. You could lose a lot of money. I mean, a woman can build you up. She can take you to the top, or she can completely destroy you. You need to be red pill to choose well.
And then, once you've chosen her, you have to put all the conservative values into practice with her.
With that woman that you are.
I agree. I agree. Nowadays, old agreements have been broken. Modern women demand traditional treatment, but they hardly fulfill any traditional requirements themselves. And that's where the asymmetry lies. I want all the privileges of the old ways, but I don't want any of the responsibilities that came with those privileges. So it's like, well, feminism in general is based on privilege. Yes, privilege, privilege, cherry picking everything men have done. Now, the responsibilities? None. So, what you're saying is still true.
Absolutely. Look, there's something very curious. The thing is, normally we tend to blame feminism, but really, above feminism, there's still a group of men using women as a tool to destroy society. That is, all those feminist ideas, all of that, the idea of the empowered woman. I'm an empowered, independent woman. I have my own stories, my own values, my own principles, just like that. No, no, no. They're selling it to you through the media, through society, from above, from an elite that wants to destroy you. That is, you're not independent. You're independent from the man who was going to protect you, or from that future man you could have who was going to look after you and protect you, to provide security for you. But as a result, you're becoming dependent on another man higher up who doesn't want good for you and aims to destroy the family. And here I think we agree.
I am 100% in agreement. 100% in agreement. Have women or the movement to liberate women actually been a movement to enslave them? Towards an ideology with the sole intention of breaking apart the most important social fabric, which is the family? Absolutely. The core.
Of society in general, so that your children are no longer yours, but belong to the state and to that bureaucracy. And so that they also pay taxes.
Absolutely.
That's right.
That's right. That's right. It's simple. People are becoming more and more aware of these topics. It's a subject that nowadays isn't even trending anymore. People just accept it. Yes. Even many women say, no, I do think it's positive for women to work. I do too. I do think it's positive for women to have options to choose what they want in life. The thing is that women have been influenced to do the exact opposite of what a good mother or a good wife should do.
There, look, I might disagree a little, and I feel that women will always look for a man. It's human nature. They will look for a top man. I mean, going for the best possible man is normal, right? But that man who has built himself up, who has started his own business, who has a source of income, who can provide, who can protect, who is resourceful, who is competent, what interest does that kind of man have in a woman who works? You have no interest in a working woman. I mean, what you want is a woman who takes care of the family, who brings you love at home, who brings you harmony, who brings you peace. You're not looking for a woman who brings in income. You're not looking for a woman with university degrees. You don't care about any of that.
Totally.
They're trying to look for, I mean, they want one thing, but they're becoming the complete opposite of what that thing is. That man, that type of man they're looking for, doesn't want that. They argue men don't like women who work now, but of course that's not true.
Men don't like successful women. No, actually, men do like hardworking women. What they don't like is that, but
I like it when they work together toward a shared purpose, like helping me, doing household chores, helping with the kids, or with Palacio Al, right?
I'm telling you straight.
If you don't like it, tough luck. I mean, that's how it is. If I tell you the truth and you don't like it, I'm sorry, man.
No, that's just how it is. I get it. Still, I think the problem isn't really with working women in general. Everyone can have their own opinion. I think the problem men have nowadays is that women, for many years of their lives, specifically the most fertile ones, the ones with more and better options, are focusing on living their lives, establishing themselves in the job market, on being successful.
On competing against men.
Eventually, the biological clock starts ticking. In their 30s, they notice everything changes. And they realize that men their age will inevitably keep feeling attracted to women in their 20s. And they start to resent men for not choosing them because of their own bad decisions. But those bad decisions haven't been decisions they've made freely, because I believe that freedom must always go hand in hand with knowledge. If you don't have the knowledge of how relationship dynamics work, of how male nature works, if men aren't aware of how female nature works, we're doomed to make decisions driven by ignorance. That's why it's so important for people to understand what men want and what women want. And if what you want and aspire to is a family life, the logical and healthy thing is to understand this and not try to change the rules of the game, because the rules of the game have been with us for many years and they have to do with instinct, with psychology, with evolution, with biology, maybe with the laws of God. But for those who don't believe, it has to do with the whole history of human evolution. These patterns repeat themselves. And as David Bush says, who is an anthropologist who studied many cultures all over the world, the patterns repeat themselves in all of them. So it's not an exclusively cultural and social issue, it's a very biological issue.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, the modern world has great arrogance, because I think it's an act of total arrogance. Just thinking that all our ancestors were wrong, that they did everything wrong, but
In every aspect.
in all of them.
In every aspect.
They were all chauvinists, they were all misogynists, they didn't want to give power to women, they were terrible. We are going to change the rules of evolution, we are going to build new rules, you see? The results of these new rules are disastrous, terrible, breakdown, anxiety, depression, lack of roots, lack of identity. And even so, they don't blame or realize, hey, maybe I was wrong, and maybe things worked a certain way for certain reasons. No, we have to double down. Another 500 billion for the Ministry of Equality, and 8 more talks in schools to teach girls to dye their armpit hair purple.
Eyes are useless when the mind is blind.
Eyes are useless when
The mind is blind. I mean, people prefer to be told what they're seeing rather than seeing with their own eyes and saying, this is what I'm seeing. I mean, it doesn't matter what you see. Where's the scientific study that backs up what I'm seeing? That's the society we live in, man.
Totally.
And bringing up the previous topic, which I found funny, about the controversial issue of water in Madrid, right? That it turns people gay.
Ha. Look, I had to make a real explaining that I was obviously exaggerating. I don't really think so, yes.
It's obvious, damn it, that you're exaggerating, but it's a meme. No.
Well, no, that has caused me problems, okay? It has caused me problems. I mean, it has even caused problems within my family.
Okay.
Just so you know, it has caused me problems. Because people, man, don't... Look, that was a serious debate. I had to take that debate more seriously. I'll admit my mistake. When posting on social media, you need to be as accurate as possible. If you're joking, you need to make it clear. Hey!
There are parameters. I mean, defending your point, there are arguments that the tap water, because of the fluoride it contains and so on,
And also the microplastics.
that it lowers your testosterone. I mean, yes.
But I stated... Wait, no, I didn't state that. I think my exact words were the following. As of today, we need to analyze whether the water does that.
You let it drop, you let it go. Yes.
I let it drop, but that's it. I think that for the war I'm fighting, for the war we're fighting, we have to be extremely careful with how we give out information. Because the way it comes across, the way people perceive it, is going to have a huge impact on your image for people who might be waiting to come out of the cave. So the one who has come out of the cave has to come in and be very smart about it. I've learned a lot from that.
The thing is, people are always looking for, no, Jota is wrong. Okay? But there's a reality that we can all see with our own eyes, and it's that modern society is completely out of control when it comes to sexuality. Sexuality. No, people don't even know their sexuality anymore. Okay, you said it kind of as a joke, or you made that comment, right? Like maybe it's the water, right?
I have to quote myself. What I said was, it went viral millions and millions of times. Yeah, maybe. They even called from TV and everything. Maybe there are so many LGBT people in cities because of the water or microplastics. Just a thought I put out there.
Yeah, well, very insightful.
Yeah, but of course, but yeah, you're really involved in the whole thing.
You still bubble everything up for me.
Of course, but you understand where I'm coming from. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Microplásticos. Microplastics, agrochemicals, food, sugary food, GMOs. People are normal, right?
Those people who criticized you aren't looking for a solution to that. I mean, they're not giving.
Or even acknowledging that problem exists, I know. So it's about.
I don't want to eliminate the problem since it's real.
Exactly, but give me another solution. But you don't realize that I'm being a reasonable and intelligent person by recognizing that I have to understand that there are certain topics that, for the vast majority of the public today, in 4 years, they won't be. No. Because, like everything, there are people who
Who have to open the window.
If 6 years ago you talked about the United States being a country of pedophiles governed by pedophiles who went to islands to have sex with children.
You'll just censor that word later, right?
No, it's fine. Well, people used to tell you you're crazy. Nowadays they don't anymore. Why is that?
Because everything is a conspiracy until a few years go by and it stops being a conspiracy.
Exactly, so I made a mistake. I made a mistake and I admit it. Not because it was a complete lie, nor because I stated something categorically like this is 100% true, but because I have to be responsible for how I convey certain information. And it really helped me a lot to say, okay, Jota, you have to be much more cautious next time, especially in that debate. Specifically, the opponent I was facing, I didn't even study him, and he was someone worth preparing for. And I didn't do it. Out of arrogance, out of ego, because since I never lose a debate and I'm the fucking best and I'm the best and ego, well, what happened, and I told my community, I wrote it. Guys, today I just lost my first debate. So, well, let's continue with the topic of GMOs, microplastics, and water.
Of life. Ultimately, many factors lower your testosterone. It's not just what you mentioned. There are thousands more, right? That's how I see things. There are many, yes. There are a lot, obviously, thank you.
But going back to the topic of the red pill and so on, let's focus on uncomfortable truths that exist today, Azarian. How did your journey begin in realizing that we've been lied to about things? Because, of course, mine started in 2020.
Yeah, around that time, yeah.
I mean, you're one of the children of the virus. Yes, you're a child of the virus. I think all of us who woke up because of the virus, we should call ourselves the children of the virus, so it's clear. Child of the virus. We've woken up because of the lies and nonsense. What the hell were they with trans? I mean, one day they told you one thing, the next day it was something else, and then the next day they said there was a deadly Australian strain, and then the next day there was a South African one, and then the next day there was Omicron, then Deltacron, then Megaputatron.
Yeah.
Oh my god, and it was also, you'd say, now we're all really going to die. No, it was crazy.
Anyone who didn't wake up is still on Jupiter. If you missed that moment, it was hard not to wake up there. But today, 6 years later, if you still think all of that wasn't just a show, I mean, you're totally out of touch. You have to be really out of touch. I mean, you must be busy with other things. You have to be really busy with other things not to notice all of that.
You just made a key point about why a lot of people don't get involved in finding out the truth, and it's because the truth takes time, not just to learn it, but also to process it.
I think that's the biggest problem we face. I always blame problems on attention. I mean, people think the most valuable thing in this world is money, but it's really our attention. What the elites really want is our attention. It's through our attention that they get their power. If they're able to keep you glued to the media, to the screens. In other words, they've given you a ticket to go to the movies and made you believe that, since the ticket is free, you have to spend your whole life watching someone else be the main character. You are the main character in your damn movie. Just because they've given you a free movie ticket doesn't mean you have to live in someone else's movie your whole damn life. In other words, wake up. They're constantly trying to show you a movie everywhere. On social media, in the news, they're showing you movies everywhere. There are narratives to make you like politics, the economy, religion. There are narratives for every taste. So we live in a system where they capture all our attention because attention, where you put your attention, you put your focus, you put your energy, you put your life into it, you put everything. So what they want is for you to keep your attention focused on things like making money, for example. It's a system they've created to keep you constantly controlled. It's a system of slavery. I mean, they sold us the capitalist idea that capitalism is what's right, isn't it? Yes, it's fine to get paid for your work. We all agree. That's meritocracy, which we know exists there, at least partly. Well, you just made a bold statement, and in Spain in 2026,
To say that everyone believes in it, let's leave the boldest things aside.
meritocracy is on Jupiter. So if I'm dismissing them, let's see.
Don't you realize that Spain is Jupiter? Yes, 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 yes. You're not seeing what's happening in the. I mean, you're not seeing that there are people who want to make me believe that Sara Santolala was assaulted by Vito Quiles when it's recorded that she wasn't, and people still keep insisting that she was.
For the record, Sarah's very smart, man. Because you have to understand, listen to me, I'm going to explain it to you, okay? You have to understand what virtue Sara Santolala has. She's on television because of her intellect, because of her knowledge, because I would say she's on television because she's a damn meme. She's on television because she's a meme and she provides entertainment.
Look, I'm really sorry, but she's a girl who's all about the show. She's a bit over the top.
Well, that too.
She always talks in a really rough way and defends with everything she's got, no matter what the government has done. Any accusation against the government, she has always come out to defend the government with everything she's got.
Well, because she has to. There hasn't been
not a single circumstance where she has said, hey, I'm critical of the government because of this. I mean, she's just a flashy cheerleader. Woman. You could say that Sara Santaolalla is a moderately attractive woman. Exuberant. She dresses flamboyantly on television.
That he likes, yes.
I don't...
I'm not attracted to her, but I understand what you're telling me. Yes, I understand. The thing is, she knows where she is, and she knows she has the fame she has for putting on a show and for being a meme, and she takes advantage of it and has all of Spain eating out of her hand. No. Everyone is watching Sara Santalala and talking about the sling and everything.
Yeah, let's see. Well, the thing is that obviously right now, Sarah,
It's about attention, going back to what we discussed earlier, right? The main thing is attention. They want to capture it. And if during a global conflict your attention is on Sara Santolala's sling, that's great. Who benefits from that? Well, Sara Santolala.
I'm not sure how much Sara Santaolalla benefits. I think she's a victim here.
Well, she makes a living from that in the end, right? She's a victim, but in the end she lives off of it. She gets money pouring in for putting on a show, after all. And for capturing people's attention.
Geopolitical situation. Do you think that people aren't informed enough to really know what's happening in the world?
No, most people don't want to know the truth. Most people want to stay asleep and...
And what is the truth, Azarian? Tell us, because you've said you're a man who seeks the truth. I want you to tell me, what is that truth as you see it right now?
Well, I wish I had it. I mean, my purpose is the search for truth. I don't know if I'm going to fulfill my purpose in this life or not. I mean, but what I do know is that my lifetime, my focus, and my energy are dedicated to searching for that truth. I could be very wrong, and I'm willing to admit that I've been wrong as many times as necessary, and I'm sure I'm constantly wrong. But at least that's what I focus my search on. I focus my time and attention on seeking the truth. Whereas, well, there are other people who do.
But let's get a little more specific.
Okay.
The truth. What do you mean? What level? Let's speak clearly. Where are you in that search right now? I want us to go deeper into your line of thought.
It's a complicated time in my life to ask myself where the truth is, because I just had to restructure everything all over again.
How much? But yes.
Moving on to the geopolitical topic, if that's okay. It's a hot topic since I've been mentioning on social media lately about this World War III story. People, well, believe that there's a World War III that Iran is facing off against the United States or Israel, and the whole story. And I've been saying for a while, I've been defending the idea that what we have is a war, the war of the end times, where the purpose is to enslave all of humanity for the rest of eternity. That is, it would be the third and last war because there are no sides. I mean, for me, the way I see the world, there are no sides. There isn't any United States in conflict with Iran and Israel and all that story. I believe that for many years there has been a plan or an agenda to establish this end times war and enslave all of humanity. That's my point. And from here, if you want, we can start discerning.
Okay, I want to be clear. What do you mean by no sides? And what do you mean by who wants to enslave humanity?
Okay. We all know how it works, or at least you know a bit about how money works, right? As we were talking before about capitalism, going back to that topic a little bit, we're told that you have to work to have a source of income, to have money for, well, the meritocracy we talked about before, right? But the reality is that above that economic system, there's a group of people who are above all that. They don't work to have money, they just inflate it, and that's it. And that group of people, well, they're rigging the capitalist system. I mean, they decide what your time is worth at any given moment by inflating the economy, by setting certain rules through taxes. I mean, they have a lot of tools to drive it up. I mean, so that your savings are worth less, so that what you earn daily is worth less. Well, this is inflation. I mean, anyone who knows about inflation knows what we're talking about. That is, there is an elite that stands above money, that operates beyond it. Well, that elite that operates beyond money is the one that has that plan. So what is their purpose? Because we're told that they want territories, that they want oil, that they want even more money. I mean, everything we're told is simply a reflection. In other words, what we think they want is a reflection of ourselves. That is, we spend our lives chasing money and wealth, and as a result, we believe they want that too. But they don't have that need. They just press a button and have money. In other words, they control the world economic system.
That's the big one. That's the big prize. That's the big prize.
The top of the pyramid, right?
The financial apex, where they can create money out of thin air, and people think it's by printing money, but it's not like you would have said. It's pressing a button, sending money to a government, that government issues a treasury bond with debt, and then the one who prints the money receives that money already produced. Because it has the backing of labor, machinery, weapons, oil, whatever they have used to give it real backing. And on top of that, they not only get the real money already created, but also an interest rate that leaves you speechless, which we all end up paying. And until that machine is turned off, until that machine that creates money artificially is gone, we will never be free.
And I'll take it a little further for you. We often mention the deep state, and I've heard you bring it up many times, but we often don't know who they are. Recently, I've tried to investigate who it is and put names and faces to that famous deep state. And, well, what I think is that many times they don't even need what you were saying about entering money into a machine and hitting send. Many times it's simply your identity. I mean, those powerful families, many times it's just who you are. Well, that's it. You don't need to pay. Go ahead, I mean, this is something I just came up with right now, but it doesn't seem crazy to me. I mean, you have your identity, you're a high-ranking person, your nobility, or whoever the hell you are. You go to a hotel. Sir, please, you're invited.
Yes, but I'm going a bit more into how the system works. Honestly, making wild guesses or speculating about how things work there isn't something I like to do, because what I do know is how money is created.
Yes.
And that's something that anyone involved in these circles can realize, that throughout history, even though there are people who deny that history exists, there has been. It's just that my head, it's slipping, it's there.
Very good. His podcast is highly recommended.
Yes. Check out the podcast with Mikael.
Very good.
You realize that truly the great assassinations of major leaders, or the great revolutions behind regime change, have always been about the control of the monetary monopoly. There's a great book called History of Central Banking and the Enslavement of Mankind.
I haven't read it, but anyway.
It's a book that explains very clearly how figures like Napoleon, Hitler, Tsar Alexander II Romanov, he was the second, right? The historian now, Alexander II. They realized that there was a kind of financial conglomerate that wanted to take control of the country's economies by monopolizing the printing and creation of money, which at the end of the day is what governs politics.
That's where people spend their time.
But that's what rules the world at the end of the day. Yes, look, I think there are other factors that govern it, but who did Jesus Christ clash with? I think you have an affinity for Christ, his message, and Christianity.
Do we agree about the Roman Empire? Or not, huh? Do we agree that he fought with the elites? With the
I don't think he fought against Rome. I think he fought, mind you, according to the Bible. Let's focus on official history. Okay, official history.
I've given my point of view. I don't know what yours is.
It's just that, of course, Michaela is there, so I get nervous talking about certain things because, damn, yes.
Yes, totally.
Totally. So, no, let's see how it would be in reality. Well, the truth is this, right? Let's start from the perspective that what we've been told is true and we don't have to compress history, real history. Jesus Christ forgave prostitutes, forgave thieves, healed the possessed, and never showed even a hint of anger in the gospel except with the money changers and merchants who were using the temple for profit. Who are these people? Who are they? The financial elite.
I think so, in a way, yes, but there's something more behind that, which are the secret societies that have been around for many years.
Tell me about the secret societies and explain to me why. Why is there something more when it's quite tangible that in almost all positions of power, in almost every industry, there's a certain type of person?
Well, because ideally it should be tangible for the rest of the people. I mean, it should be tangible so you can see where things are moving, what's actually going on. Secret societies exist to keep what's happening behind the scenes hidden from you. Returning to the banking topic we discussed earlier, right? The global economic system we have today, with the Rothschilds, we can probably agree that it's the Rothschilds who are more or less involved in the whole banking business. But the Rothschilds? I mean, banking goes way back. Since the ancient Roman Empire, because some of those families that survived ancient Rome moved first to Venice, creating that famous Venetian black nobility that people talk about. There are people who talk a lot about it. I only know the basics about the Venetian black nobility. Later, they moved to the Netherlands, creating the First World Bank, and later they go on to create the British Empire. They create the British Empire through the City of London. The City of London still controls the world and the global banking system. Yes. Okay, well, that City of London was created by these papal bloodlines and by this black nobility. The black nobility are secret societies that have existed for many years. I mean, they come from ancient Rome. That's why many say the Roman and Babylonian empires, or the Babylonians themselves, never died. They come from those roots. And this already came from the time of Jesus Christ. And I, from my perspective or from my truth, believe that Jesus Christ tried to fight against those elites. He tried to tell the slaves, hey, these people who enslave us through money, they will not enter the kingdom of the Father because they are too busy chasing riches and are corrupting themselves for money. But they are not seeking spirituality, they are not seeking goodness, they are not seeking to do good for one another, they are not seeking love. I mean, they are looking for the exact opposite, the material world, materialism. That's my perspective. So from there, that new trend of the beans is born, and I think they somehow try to blame the corruption on the beans. There is an elite above to fulfill the eschatology of the end times, which is ultimately where religions converge. That is, with that end of times where the Messiah has to come, and for the Messiah to come, all the nations of the world have to rebel against the chosen people. And that's what we're living through now. I mean, I think all the anti-yes, yes,
Yes, everyone will rebel against the bean people,
that's what we're living through today.
but the Messiah, the Christian one, and in Islam, it's not the same Messiah as the bean people's Messiah. In fact, before the true Messiah arrives, there has to be an Antichrist, the anti-Messiah.
Yes.
And that's the bean Messiah.
Yes, the story, I don't know who's who, I don't know who's who, I don't know who one person's Messiah is, I don't know who another person's Messiah is. What I want to address is that people are waiting for that moment. And that's what matters to them. That's what they care about. I mean, people are waiting for the Messiah to come. That's the hope people have. As long as they have hope, there won't be a rebellion. There isn't a, I mean, if this whole theory I'm telling you is real and we're moving toward a final war to enslave the rest of humanity, if people knew about it this way, they would rebel. They would say, wow, we're not going to accept this. However, people are accepting it because they're waiting for the Messiah. That's their shred of hope. So people say, well, the Messiah will come soon. It doesn't matter all the evil. It doesn't matter the elites. It doesn't matter all the bad things we're experiencing. It doesn't matter what their purpose is because the Messiah is going to come. Well, what if he doesn't come? And what if it was all a show set up by them? We're screwed. Because if my theory about the Roman Empire is still valid today through that black nobility and through those elites who control the world economy, and the Roman Empire used to enslave people, what was slavery like back then? I mean, why couldn't the slaves rebel against the system? Because the system or the elites had swords, they had weapons, they had ways to defend themselves. What do they have now?
The same.
The technology.
We also don't know about the weapons.
The main weapon against humanity now is technology. I mean, you and I, in that context, in that scenario, we probably wouldn't even be able to do this podcast. It's not unreasonable to think they were recording our conversation through our phones. I mean, If technology keeps evolving and CBDCs and all that stuff get implemented, they'll know where you are at every moment, what you're talking about at every moment. We're giving them permission to access all that private information of ours and to flag our bank account. Where are you spending your money? What are your interests? With all this artificial intelligence, well, all of that is tracked. You don't need a person tracking all that. It's already tracked through artificial intelligence. You just need servers to track it. Jota, are you interested in this, or that? You've spent money in several places and talked to various people, etc. That system of slavery is impossible to break. And that would be the end of humanity as we know it. That is, slavery taken to its highest level. As if
You'd lose privacy and intimacy.
And how could you break that? The moment you try to conspire to break it, that's it. They already know what you're doing. I mean, they'll cut your throat right away. For me, that's the prism we're moving toward. Modern slavery. The Roman Empire hasn't died. They're just reshaping slavery.
And one question, how would you propose to fight against this?
By not giving them the attention they want. What if, let me explain. Hope we're not censored for this. What would have happened if in 2020 we had all turned off the TV, left social media, and stopped buying their media and all their stories? What would happen if, when they fed us this story about the beacon recently, nobody paid attention because nobody is listening to what they're saying? Well, they would completely lose their power. If we stop giving them our attention, they can't rule us. They can't individually watch what we're doing or telling us where they want to take us. The tool is attention. They create a play for you, create a movie through their entire bureaucratic system and all the paraphernalia they've been building for years, so that we give them our attention and gradually accept their narrative. That is, we are against it. But even while being against it, we keep giving them attention. They put this out. Did you see what this one is going to do right now? Look, now they want to put out something else. Well, we are giving them attention in some way. We are accepting it, we are amplifying their message. That's why attention is so important, and we live in the world of attention. You and I who work in social media know it, yes. Even the negative is positive. Even hate gives you virality.
Totally. The modern world is absolutely crazy. And I do agree that the plan at the end of the day is to control everything that can be controlled.
We're experiencing it. It's not a conspiracy.
We have no. Agenda 2030. Davos Economic Forum. Yes. The only thing you need to realize that these aren't crazy ideas is to listen to their messages. You just have to listen to them, that's it.
Exactly. Well, you have the president of Spain wanting to make us use identification on social media to protect minors. Have they done anything to protect minors from this elite group of pedophiles that just came out? No, nothing has happened at all. But we have to protect the minors. From whom? From a society that is completely corrupted. From social media that are full of lies. It's all just a show, a play, but what do I know? Maybe we're just conspiracy theorists.
Alright, Azarian, I agree with you because I think the same, that they're after absolute control. That's more than obvious to anyone who has eyes, they tell us. Exactly. Like I said before, anyone who pays attention, listens and watches.
Anyone who sees for themselves. And don't say, they're just telling you, that's true.
Now then, do you think that simply withdrawing attention from them would be enough to escape that control? I don't think so, because nowadays they're making laws that keep people up all night here. Ica Regidor is amazing. A guy who's already self-sufficient, which I think is what all of us should aspire to with the way the world is going. He has his chickens, he has his solar panels. Alright.
I can't wait to watch that. Check it out.
They could come to him tomorrow and say your chickens aren't registered and so on. And the power and strength of the state, since they have the monopoly on violence, he won't be able to do absolutely anything to uphold his inalienable rights to his essence as a human being. Therefore, burying your head in the sand won't be enough. That is, I'm going to confront you and tell you that I don't think it's enough. Under no circumstances does ignoring them and those of us who ignore them mean that we can change the course humanity is taking.
Okay, we agree that it's a super utopian scenario. I mean, you would have to convince a lot of people to stop paying attention to that, right? It's very utopian. I'm sorry to be so pessimistic about this, right? But you've mentioned a very important point, which is this guy, right? This guy, I haven't watched the podcast. I've seen a reel or something, and he said he doesn't pay for water, right? Was it something like that? Tell me what it was.
The guy is self-sufficient. He gets his own water from a well and pumps it with his own electricity. He has his own power. He has his own food.
He makes his own way. No, no, no.
No, he lives in the countryside, isolated, being absolutely self-sufficient.
He's a clear example of someone who ignores external things. No. People can knock on his door. I'll accept your argument that they can knock on his door and force him to comply anyway, to make him comply. He's being self-sufficient. That is, it's more complicated because he no longer depends on the system. You can't put shackles on him when he's not using your system. But if we take that to the maximum level, they can do it to one person, but they can't do it to an entire society or to a whole country. But again, it's utopian. What I'm proposing is a very utopian point of view. Still, I can't help it. You asked me for the only solution I see, a solution. The only solution I see is that one. It's utopian, we're screwed. We are cooked. We are cooked. We're completely screwed.
Sure, but there are times when I try to be optimistic, like, come on, let's dream, better times will come, but no, it gets complicated.
I'm honestly very pessimistic. I tend to always be that way.
I don't like being pessimistic, and I'll tell you why. Even though I know how the world of pedophilia and the elites operate, I can't change it. I have to live my life in the most honorable way possible, in the most epic way possible. Try to conquer
I'm with you on that.
every area that can be conquered with the abilities God has given me. And to live above all trying to be a better person myself, and as a result, by trying to be better, also trying to make the world a better place through the impact of my actions.
Not losing faith in myself. Just because the whole system is messed up and we're going to just because I'm super pessimistic doesn't mean I'm going to act according to that pessimism. I'm going to keep living my life in the best way possible and keeping my self-esteem and my energy and whatever, my mood or my aura, always at the highest level. Now, if you tell me, be rational and be logical and look at where we're heading, I'm always very pessimistic in that regard. Because, well, I look at society, I see the world around me and I say, phew, we're screwed.
Man, we really have no salvation. We don't deserve the media, but, well, that doesn't change the fact that I kind of take it as a joke.
I take it as a joke. I live in a simulation. Okay, let's live, let's enjoy, let's make the movie as epic as possible.
Totally, that's it. Let's make the movie as epic as possible.
We are in charge of our own realities. There are many realities, right? There's only one.
Many truths exist in reality, but only one ultimate truth.
Create your own reality.
I'm sure, where is reality created?
You make it. The other day. How?
How? Where and how?
In your mind, in your own mind.
In your thinking, exactly. In the thought structure that
they exert, you exert. That's why they want to put a movie in front of you so you're watching it all the time. Because you can create your own reality. And if you're watching someone else's reality, the reality others are showing you, you're not seeing your own reality, you're not creating your reality, you're just a mere spectator in someone else's movie. They gave you a free movie ticket to keep you watching.
And the movie theater today is the cell phone?
Right? The cell phone, the media, television, it's all one thing. And I argue that even if you decide, I don't have a cell phone, I quit social media, I don't watch TV, I don't consume media, I don't consume any of their propaganda, we're social beings, man. If the group you hang out with or the people you hang out with are into those things, as a result, they're going to end up leading you down that path in the end. It's complicated. To be free, as you said, you need to know the truth. If Jesus Christ is the way, the truth, and the life, that's how you find freedom. Without understanding the world, you're just watching someone else's movie.
What do you think is the biggest lie you've discovered that was actually a lie in this search for truth?
I could say so many things. Look, I would tell you, earlier we were talking about the Matrix, right? The famous rabbit hole, right? It seems to have no bottom, man. When you get to a point and say, okay, this is the bottom, well, there's still more, right? The good thing about all this is that always the deeper you go, you start to realize that at the bottom there's a light, the light of Christ. Christ is at the bottom of that great conspiracy. But if you want me to be more specific, the heliocentric lie, I would say, is a big lie. So you're a flat earther? I'm not a flat earther. I know the earth is not a spinning ball. What is the real shape of the earth? Whether it's concave, flat, or something else, I don't know because I haven't seen it. But that it's not a spinning ball, I'm completely sure of that. Maybe that's what helps me keep my bearings, not being dizzy.
Damn.
Dude, just imagine thinking you're spinning around in thousands of directions all the time, man. Of course you're dizzy.
That's one thing that's always going to be hard for me to buy.
It's the Jesuits, man. In the 1600s,
Well, here we have this gentleman who's already in the 1600s, and I really agree with that, man.
We're going to have to put him in here. Let's put him in.
Let's put him in.
Let's bring the gentleman in.
Let him join.
Before Mikael gets in. What did you say about the Jesuits?
Okay, the thing about the Jesuits, to try to shed a little light on that heliocentric lie, one of the two ways to start from there is, first, to trust your senses, not what you've been told, if you are being true to them. I mean, if we know that the educational system is one of the biggest tools of social control they have, it's the way in which, I mean, when you're a child, everything you receive, when you're little, you don't discern it. That is, you accept it because it's being taught to you by an adult who knows more than you, so you absorb it. And then, how do you deconstruct that? It's easy to deceive someone, but hard to convince them they've been deceived. That's why the educational system, when you're young, puts all that indoctrination in your head. So, if you had never been indoctrinated that way, if they had never told you the story they wanted, because in the end, and I repeat, the heliocentric lie was created by the Jesuits, and the educational system was also created by the Jesuits. So you already have 2 points of convergence. But if no one had ever told you that story, would you ever have come to believe that you live on a spinning ball? So if you, again, instead of listening to scientific studies and the reality that others are projecting to you and the story that others are telling you are true to your own senses, then you come to understand that you don't live on a spinning ball. And on the other hand, the Jesuits in the 1600s, again, I want to mention my colleague here. In the 1600s, they funded a lot of astronomers to put the sun at the center. I mean, we lived in a geocentric model. That is, it's not that science advanced. And now let's be smarter than before and find a much more truthful model. No, it's that both are completely solid. One doesn't disprove the other. It's simply a philosophical matter. So, what they did in the 1600s was fund those astronomers to put the sun at the center, to do the math needed to put the sun at the center, because these elites are deeply into sun worship, so they wanted to put the sun back at the center. Why? Don't ask me about that. I mean, I'm still trying to debunk that conspiracy. Still. I want to know why they put the sun at the center and worship it that way. If you look at the world around you, you'll see that sun worship is significant. And that's one of the stories, putting the sun at the center so that we all idolize the sun god.
Ladies and gentlemen, after a short break to adjust the cameras, Mikael has entered the studio.
Okay, well, I saw this guy, Mikael, in the previous podcast he recorded with Jay, and he was very aligned with some of, well, if you've made it this far into the podcast, you've already realized that I'm a damn conspiracy theorist, and I dedicate myself to trying to dismantle and unravel the whole world I live in. And I've touched on all kinds of conspiracies. So, when he mentions the works of the New Chronology by Anatoly Fomenko, I say, he's the first Spanish-speaking person I've seen talk about this. And I myself wrote to Mikael that day and said, hey, good for you for your great work. And I want to know more. I'm really interested in knowing much more, you know? So, well, now that I have the opportunity to have him here, it's an honor for me to be able to share and try to seek the truth in the end, which is what we're both doing. It's what unites us.
Thank you. Sorry for this improvised cameo. They asked me to do it. Welcome again. Here we are.
Was it him trying to be the center of attention? Not at all, actually. I was the one who insisted. And Azarian said yes, 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 because I want him to feel comfortable.
Thanks for the introduction. It's funny when he says, no, it's me. I'm so much of a conspiracy theorist that I try to distance myself from conspiracy and stick to the method. Thanks again for introducing me. He did something I really admire because in 2 shows I've recorded with Jota, I haven't managed to do it myself. Fomenko's New Chronology I've recorded twice and for some reason I haven't mentioned it. But anyway, everything is fine and well. I'm here to say a little about the Jesuits and all that. So, I saw them there, sitting in the back, talking about history and alternative history. And Jota, he looked at me from time to time, so in the end I had to join in, guys.
Yes, I had to join in and I brought you along, because I want to make several things clear. Who do you blame for the heliocentric system? You blame the Jesuits, and you also blame the Jesuits for the chronology that you call false.
Please, I keep saying that the Jesuits are a tool of that higher elite, the famous one. Well, the papal bloodlines and the black nobility are a tool of theirs, okay? But yes, the issue of chronology, well, they are the ones who have more or less built our history, our beliefs, our science, our stories. They are everywhere. It's not just my opinion. I think Mikael agrees with me. Mikael or Michael? Mikael, neither of the two.
So, Mikael, are you clear about it? In the podcast we recorded this morning, I'm even wearing the same clothes. I mean, this podcast, the one with Mikael, is going to be uploaded first, and you're watching it the following week. The one I'm doing with Azarian, and at the end there's a cameo by Mikael. It's 100% verifiable that it's the Jesuits who are behind the established and official chronology of history. And it's also true, as you say as a historian, that the Jesuits funded a lot of astronomers in the 16th century. I mean, this is verifiable because I see Azar and Azarian as people who are really into conspiracy theories, but I see you as someone who's not into conspiracies. What I see in you is a data analyst. So, I want to compare their information with what you have and see if the story you've told me here has any basis.
If not, I mean, he provides a lot of information that logically he has been digging up and looking for in different places. What happens is that for something to stop being a conspiracy, there has to be a method behind it. I mean, he might be right about a lot of facts, but maybe he doesn't know how to connect them. Maybe I have a good method, well, not me, but the science I share, logically. But of course, it also has to be backed up by a lot of data. Both mathematicians and independent people need to gather information since no one, not even a group of 10 or 100, can do everything alone. So, having said all this, he's right that the Jesuits have been involved in all the major scientific and technical advances from the 16th century onward. I mean, absolutely all of them. Chronology, Dionisio Petavius, one of the great chronologists, was a Jesuit. Scaliger wasn't, he was Protestant, but Dionisio Petavius was. In the podcast we recorded earlier, I mentioned to you the role of the Jesuits in creating the artificially extended history of Asia, right? Especially, okay? That is, especially China, connecting it with what he says about astronomy. It was the Jesuits, as I mentioned in that podcast, who brought astronomical tables of eclipses and back calculations to Asia in order to consolidate a chronology there and anchor it to astronomical elements to say, you see, there is an astronomical corroboration that says this document is ancient. And they are really retro calculations, that is, dates pushed back, which could already be done in the 16th or 17th century, all right? What I would emphasize is that the Jesuits did not have a hive mind, okay? That is, they didn't all think the same way. There were Jesuits who defended one thing, Jesuits who were perhaps somewhere in the middle, and other Jesuits who defended the complete opposite. It was a struggle. It was an intellectual armed force that, as he rightly said, was a tool of the Felicidad. And then when it started to become inconvenient, they got rid of it. But it's true that the Jesuits, the same ones who perhaps supported and made heliocentrism possible, I'm not getting into whether it's right or wrong here. I'm not taking a position on that, okay? That is, within the new chronology, I stick to the official astronomical view, okay? But that's really beside the point. So, all I'm saying is that there were Jesuits who supported heliocentrism and, let's say, encouraged that theory to be established, and there were others who could very well have been against it. In fact, for example, even if it wasn't because of the heliocentric or geocentric system, we do know that it was a Jesuit who prosecuted Galileo for other reasons. But just so you see that not all scientific advances were seen as good by the Jesuits themselves, all right?
I want to make a brief comment about the topic of conspiracies, okay? And the thing is, in the end, I'm a person who tries, like I said at the beginning, I'm a person who tries to seek the truth. My truth. Well, not my truth, the truth, but for me. Not to explain it to others. Because there's something that people really want, going back to the idea that they like to have a leader and they like to be told the truth and they like to be told this is how it is, like this, like this. I don't have the truth. I'll be wrong thousands of times. What I'm doing is trying to find it. And my method for searching for it, in the end, I haven't boxed myself into a specific area. I haven't boxed myself into history or heliocentrism. If you want to learn history, watch him. To learn about the heliocentric lie, look up Iru, who records with Jota. That is, if you really have an interest or a desire for knowledge, you can keep pulling on that thread. I'm keeping it very surface level because my search, in the end, has taken me into many different niches. I can't stop at the details. That is, I can't stop at the details with everything. I don't need to. Often, having just 4 or 5 things align is enough for me to keep going and searching for the truth. And on the other hand, I can't expect to convince anyone of anything in a 1-hour talk or 2 hours or whatever, because it's hours and hours and hours of research. I mean, I've spent a lot of time on this throughout my life. This man has been doing it for 10 years. 10 years, right? Studying, researching all of this. He's been at it for 10 years. I've also spent a lot of time trying to discover the truth. I mean, in a 1 hour talk, in a podcast, it's impossible for me to try to convince anyone of anything. I don't intend to do that either. I'm just giving you the superficial facts. If you're truly interested, instead of calling me a conspiracy theorist, find the information you need to respond.
What you just said is very important. It's very difficult to condense all the podcasts, all the books, all the information you gather and condense it for someone who wants to be convinced in an hour. Of course.
Minutes. People want it. They want what's easy, what's fast. They don't want to search, they just want to be. Often people tell me they don't have time to look into it. Sometimes they ask for my version, then say they still don't have time to research. Well, but if you don't have time, don't ask me, don't try to debate with me. No.
They don't just ask, they question.
Yes, exactly. If you genuinely ask, I can explain. But if you keep questioning me, saying you haven't read the book and don't want to, yet challenge everything I say and insist I'm wrong, it's unproductive. Well, tell me that I'm wrong, but tell me with arguments. I'm happy to hear your arguments against it, but come on, read the book first so you can have a point of view. Exactly. You.
Has something like that happened to you?
Me, well, obviously, I mean, in the end, the criticism that people usually make, the easy criticism is that can't be because it just can't be. That can't be because it just can't be, okay? I mean, that's the easy criticism. This isn't possible because it isn't possible because I
Telling you in a different way at school.
exactly or because of the usual, you know what? Nobody knows. No. I mean, what is that? Impersonal? Like what do you mean it's known? I mean, do you know based on what? Have you even bothered to study the subject? What sources have you analyzed? We can debate if you want. The real issue is stubbornness. And I always come back to the same thing. The word, in fact, people are afraid of the word conspire, you know? Now, if you notice, they've taken it further and turned it into conspiranoia, mixing conspiracy with paranoia. But really, all politics and all of human history have been shaped by conspiracies. Conspirare comes from breathing in unison, two people who agree on the same goal. There are conspiracies even in families, okay? There are conspiracies. I mean, conspiracy is something absolutely natural. I always return to the same point. In searching for truth, you must try to be objective, in my view. And people say you should never close yourself off to anything. Look, it's not about closing yourself off or not. It's about seeing things clearly. And above all, logic. The logic of the method, if someone tells you, right? In your search for truth, a testimony isn't the same as evidence of guilt, just like a witness statement in a trial isn't proof. A testimony must be backed by facts. Except nowadays in this country, obviously a testimony, you know, can ruin your life, but it shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be that way. So, for example, in his search, I'm sure that without knowing why, he's come across certain clues. The thing is so that he can connect them, and so that many who have come across that truth can connect them. They were missing precisely that backbone that I think, for example, the version I support offers. For me,
Zaria, something very similar happens to me too. And I've come across several truths, but at the end of the day, I don't have a way to tie it all together. And honestly, it's very honorable to admit, hey, I don't know whether what I believe right now is actually the truth. But what is clear is that I think that even though some people might think what you've said here, or flat earth theory or whatever, sounds like nonsense, I believe that it's always positive for society to regain a critical spirit and not have everything handed to you on a silver platter.
Absolutely.
I think it's good and it's more positive than negative to question certain things as long as there's a basis for it.
Yeah, in the end, being called a conspiracy theorist is like when they call you a bigot or when they call you sexist or misogynist over and over again. I mean, it's like I don't have arguments to refute you, I don't have arguments to confront you, so I'm just going to insult you. I mean, it's fine if you want to call me a conspiracy theorist, but argue with me. I mean, give me your point of view, and if it's more logical and more rational than mine, or if it has more science behind it than mine, I'm happy to change my mind. I'm someone who, again, is searching for the truth. And I'm okay with admitting that I've been wrong. In fact, I've been wrong thousands of times, and what I'm saying today, maybe in a year, I'll have a different point of view, right? But well, in the end, that's what it's all about, searching for the truth. Being able to set emotions aside, to let go of your ego, to say, okay, in order to search for the truth, I often have to detach myself from those emotions, which is what we were talking about at the beginning of the podcast. Going back a bit to the topic of Michael, he has shed a little light for me, because in these last few months I had been searching a bit for who Jesus Christ was. Yes, we already know the official story, but I had been trying to look far beyond that. And he has given me much needed input because, as you were saying, right? Death, this is really crazy. It's hard for me to accept it. That we live 800 what?
874.
874 years after Jesus Christ. And that Egypt and the Roman Empire came after Jesus Christ. Am I correct? Well, if you want to comment on it, go ahead.
I mean, the original Roman Empire, okay? The one where Christ was emperor, that's what is known as the Byzantine Empire. That is the empire of the Greeks, right? Of the Hellenics, of the Anatolians. Then the Italian Roman Empire is an artificial creation with, let's say, political overtones. And Egypt, the monumental pharaonic Egypt that we know, is precisely an absolutely Christian country from early Christianity. In fact, it is, let's say, the great funerary metropolis. That is, it is the cemetery. That's why they were so dedicated to the cult of the dead. I mean, exclusively. If you analyze the history of Egypt, everything revolves around the funerary world.
The Book of the Dead of Osiris?
Everything, absolutely everything. And people would ask, why that obsession? They tell you no, but it is obsessive. But it was really because it was the cemetery of that great empire that once, as a civilization, arose in Egypt, then moved to Anatolia, and then moved further north. And when it was ecumenical, logically, where would you want to be buried? In the land of your ancestors, together with your parents. That is to say, that's precisely how the enormous Egyptian cemetery was born. And all the symbolism, and that's what I told you when we were recording the podcast, even the hieroglyphs in the past, many people read them as if they were entire phrases of theological or liturgical concepts. They weren't names of pharaohs or battles, things like that. Champollion later interpreted that using the Rosetta Stone, among other sources.
It's just that it's
Hard.
To say. It's hard to say all this.
Of course.
It's like you can't even process exactly how deep the rabbit hole goes if we assume that everything being said here is true. And I know you don't have any bad intentions when it comes to deceiving anyone. The only thing I know is that people can say, damn.
No, of course they're going to say damn. I'm saying damn right now. I mean, it's really very complicated. For me, the easy thing would be to say none of this exists and just accept the story as it is. I wish it had been that simple, right? I wish we didn't have to untangle all these stories. But well, all this that EM was talking about, Mikhail, okay, I bring up this whole topic after seeing that the story of Christ is one. At first I thought it was a compilation of the stories of Osiris and Horus, of Mithra, of Buddha, of Krishna. I mean, there are a lot of characters throughout history who have either performed the same miracles as Jesus Christ, or their birth or death are similar. So I say, did Jesus Christ really exist at some point, or is it a story put together from all of this? So when he comes and says, all of this happened later, giving greater meaning to the power of Jesus Christ as a figure.
Is there anything you want to add, Mikhail?
Yes, absolutely true. I mean, the official story tells us that Christianity is the result of a syncretism and a mix of various ancient religions. So let's say that's it, right? It's like you have to imagine a pyramid, I mean, with a wide base and then everything converges toward the top, let's say, right? Building the story of Christ. Whereas scientific revisionism based on mathematics and astronomy says it's the other way around. That is, it's an inverted pyramid or a tree. That is, from the same root, which is Christ, a trunk grew that branched out into all the different cultures and religions we know today, which apparently are different, but all coincidentally have a common link, a common trunk. And then, of course, since many people don't know how to interpret it because they still believe we are 5,000 years old, what do? They take that trunk even further back. So from there come all the theories about the Atlanteans, the Anunnaki, the whatevers, and so on. It's all much more prosaic, much simpler.
And there's something you mentioned about that whole afterlife thing the Egyptians were so into, like in the Book of Osiris that I mentioned earlier, for example. This is still being done today and has been done for many years to initiates in secret societies. One of the things that is done in the initiation ritual is the afterlife ritual. That is, in ancient Egypt, they made them go through a symbolic death. They made them die symbolically. They put them in a coffin for 3 days, making them believe they had died. Because for these mythologies or these civilizations, when you die, you meet the gods of the sky, and they make you pass into the afterlife. So it was meant to guide you so you would know what you're going to experience when you die. So they would make you go through that symbolic death for 3 days and then resurrect you on the 3rd day. And this is something that has been done since ancient Egypt and is still done today in secret societies for initiates. It's a symbolic death meant to prepare you for the afterlife. I don't know if you can add more or if you already knew about it.
No, not specifically that. Not specifically that. The only thing I would add, and I think I'll finish my part here, is that we have many more Christian symbols today than we think. Because we shouldn't just focus, let's say, on the modern Christian tradition that we know. After scientific analysis and review, we have to realize that many other festivals, many other liturgies, traditions that we consider pagan today are actually not pagan, nor do they come from paganism. Because paganism is another branch of the explanation and interpretation of the original Christian religion, simply adapted to the idiosyncrasies and regional beliefs of each area. That's why precisely a figure like Christ became, for example, Krishna, right? And that Hindu religion is so diverse, so colorful, so strange, isn't it? With those snakes, those faces. That is to say, each region contributed its own elements. And an example that everyone knows is, for instance, bullfighting. Bullfighting is closely related to Christianity, even though people say it's pagan, but it's also closely related to Mithra, who is a reflection of Christ. All right? That's why Mithra is depicted stabbing a bull from above and so on. That's also why the papal mitre takes its name from Mithra. And many other things. We could get into the topic of bullfighting, what the bull represents, and so on, but it's purely the passion and death of Christ on the cross.
Well, it's truly outrageous. To me, it's outrageously interesting, not in any other way. Honestly, guys, it's been a huge pleasure. I'd like you to give a message to the audience to wrap up this little 10-minute cameo. I hope you enjoyed it.
Well, my message is to stop acting like sheep and start questioning everything, asking about everything, not following trends, and not just doing what the shepherd says. Society needs to wake up. Thank you.
And I would say, guys, well, more or less almost paraphrasing, right? Keep searching, okay? But make sure it's well grounded in the scientific method, all right? Try to be as rigorous as possible and don't let those at the top easily deceive you through ideological impositions, especially when it comes to ideology. Because ideology is a biased view of reality extended to the logos or the entirety of knowledge. Don't fall into the trap of the elites and don't fall into absurd reductionisms or absurd conspiracy theories, okay? Like unicorns and things, you could say there are 1,000 things. Try to be, let's say, as diligent as possible in your analysis. That's all.
Now, gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed the show with Azarian. I hope you liked the cameo at the end. And more, we're going to make shows that challenge the realities established by everyone. The goal of this podcast is to bring in people who would never have a voice on television. So, because if you want to do the same thing that's done on TV, just watch TV. Simple, right? I don't think there's much more to what I was going to say. Honestly, it's been a huge pleasure having you here, guys. Thank you. We've had a great talk. This show will be uploaded as is. This goes out to my dear Buru. First, the morning one will be uploaded, then this one for continuity. That's all for today, gentlemen. See you next week on another episode of La Factoria.